Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment and share with your friends. So, also, there's really like once you get halfway of this podcast, there is a lot more to unfold and discover. So please tune in and stay until the end, inshallah.
Greetings, salam, welcome from and to wherever you may be on the globe. Welcome to the Global Leadership Podcast with myself at Eastern Healing, as per my ex moniker, with my esteemed colleague at Fatima Smith, as you'll see on the thumbnail and in the description under the video. We normally do these podcasts on Spaces, but we're trying a slightly different venture on this different platform. Briefly, my background is I'm a clinical professor in behavioral psychology, so my perspective is usually from that outcome-driven scenario. And as I've mentioned on the previous podcast, my colleague Fatima is a immunologist as well as a teacher with an interest in psychology and behavior, etc. as well. So we're continuing part 2 in our exploration of this concept of taking the poison from the honey. And that was a remarkable strategy adopted by the Algerian revolutionaries. And in part 2, what we wanted to focus on was the qualities of leadership, on what foundations they are anchored, how those qualities then shine through and emanate in leadership that matters. And in order to contextualize that a little bit with what is going on today, I wanted to refer to a powerful scene actually from a film, I think from the early 90s perhaps, fantastic classic movie of its genre called Leon, starring Gary Oldman. And this is to sort of put President Trump, Donald Trump's re-election, along with his merry men of patriots, what they're trying to achieve and how it impacts the globe into a certain kind of context. So in the last scene of the movie Leon, which is well worth a watch, it's available on different platforms, he's a bad cop, Gary Oldman, and there's a character called Leon, who's a good baddie, if you like, yeah. And so they're trying to take him down. The Leon character thinks he's made his escape from the back of this particular building, but the Gary Oldman character is right behind him, unbeknownst to Leon. And as he's about to exit the building, feeling victorious, and this, forgive the spoiler if you haven't seen the film, Gary Oldman's character shoots him from the back and takes him down. And in his victorious feeling, he stands over his victim as Leon speaks to him and recognizes him and calls him by name. And Oldman's character rather sarcastically says, "At your service," when he names him. And Leon he's got a clenched fist, but he hands him something. And we see that it's a pin that he's taken out of a grenade. And Oldman's character then opens Leon's, who's on the floor, jacket. And he is wired up to the max in bombs. And the next shot, the whole apartment corner, the block just gets blown to smithereens. And the last words we hear from the Gary Oldman's character are shit. Now that is Trump's situation today. President Trump's situation today, having been put through the ringer with what they did to him after his first stint at presidency, after his first attempt at draining the swamp. And we note that he hasn't been using that phrase again. Now it's like, I'm taking down the deep state. But have the lessons been learned? Or, and hopefully, despite his many global mistakes in global policy, we do wish him well, because a healthy America is good for the rest of the world, especially the Western world. A constitutionally driven America can be a good partner, business partner for the rest of the world. But the problem is draining the swamp, getting rid of the deep state. He hasn't demonstrated the kinds of qualities that the Algerian revolutionaries over an 8-year campaign successfully showed with their strategy of taking the poison from the honey. And that as a quality of leadership, a vital quality of leadership, because so far it's not looking good for Trump. He's already nominated characters for his government who are parts of the deep state. And to some people, this won't be a surprise. Others it will be, who have put so much hope into this smoke and mirrors theatrical, episode that we're seeing again, Trump presidency 2.0. But the qualities inherent in taking the poison, removing the poison from the honey, don't seem inherent, innate, a part of that genetic DNA which constitutes the American. But still, lessons can be learned. There is a fantastic book printed, I believe, by the federal. Give me a second. Let me just have a look at the. It is called Algeria, a country study from the Federal Research Division, Library of Congress. And this research was completed in 1993. So the resources exist, the information exists, and a smart businessman cannot afford to be wrong, because a loss of, taking a loss means you're not going to be able to do business again. You have got no credit available. And the only reason Trump is seen now as this John Wayne cowboy figure who's going to ride to the rescue is because he's in a country that is the global reserve currency, which even when he gets it wrong, they're able to print fiat currency and make it look like, oh, we've made a success of this. No, you took a big L. You took a massive loss. I mean, I respect his character. He stood and taken it all, the court cases, etc., etc. And I wish him well. And I wish he studies the Algerian Revolution and what it took. Because these people are the genetic ancestry of Hannibal the Great. Hannibal, the conqueror of armies. The Roman legions, the Roman armies would tremble, shake, quake, knowing that they were going to face Hannibal. He smashed army after army after army. Yes, he made the failure in not going into Rome, but that was his humanitarian side. He was a general, he was a soldier. He didn't go into the city. He expected them to make terms, but he didn't realize how sneaky the army is. So the Algerians are a people with a rich tapestry of learning from history, including Carthage and the Berbers, and later on leading to the Roman era, which also the people learned from, the Vandals and the Byzantine era, the Islamization under the Fatimids, Almoravids, Almohads, Zionids, Marabouts, leading on to the colonization of France. So when there is this lineage of learning, the smart businessman, the genuine entrepreneur or investor or whatever in terms of being a business angel, real leaders are readers. And as I said, we wish him well in a campaign of taking the poison from the honey, but it's qualities of leadership that matter. And those qualities are what we will go into from the perspective of the Algerian revolutionaries, with my learned guest, breaking down between us some of those vital characteristics, because in this kind of leadership, one absolutely cannot afford to be wrong.
Indeed, indeed, brother. That was very well put. And as the old saying goes, necessity is the mother of invention. And for the people of Algeria, necessity drove them to invent ways to stand against a powerful colonial force and reclaim their freedom. And due to their origins as Berbers, Amazigh, and the word Amazigh, the etymology of the word, it means the free. So freedom is more than a concept to the Algerians. It's part of their identity, woven into their history and culture. So bowing to an oppressor was simply not in their nature. In their struggle against the French colonialism, the stakes could not have been higher. It was a matter of life and death, a fight to either live freely or face an unending oppression. So one of the Algeria's greatest revolutionary leaders, as mentioned before in the first part, Ahmed Ben Bella, he captured this spirit perfectly when he said, through the revolution to the people, and they will embrace it. And indeed, that's what they've done. The Algerian Revolution became a beacon not only for the Amazigh and the Algerians, but for all those who would come to their shores. And one of an amazing leader that has inspired the FLNs, but not just the FLNs, but throughout the struggle, is Al-Amir Abdel Qadir. And he's the founder of the Algerian state. He come from a very scholarly family. And he was labeled as a warrior, Islamic scholar. He was celebrated for his leadership during Algeria's early resistance against the French. So his commitment to human rights and diplomacy was very inspiring. As known one of the greatest figures in Algerian history, his life reflects both a powerful resistance to occupation and enduring commitment towards peace, compassion, and justice. So he was born in a village, right? And he was raised in a very deeply religious and intellectual family. And it was actually quite a famous one. He was prominent in Hassaniya tribe. So his father, Muhil ad-Din, was a respectful Sufi scholar. So that influenced Abdul Qadir's education and spiritual foundation from a young age. He studied the Quran, Islamic jurisprudence, and classical Arabic literature. Becoming an Islamic scholar himself, as a youth, he was well regarded for his intellect and sense of justice, foreshadowing his later leadership role. So the turning point for Abdul Qadir came in 1830 when the French began their occupation for Algeria. So in 32, the local tribe leaders, needing a unifying figure, appointed him. So it was like the same concept of Khalifa, so his selection. So he began his famous resistance against the French under his leadership. He united diverse tribes from different parts of Algeria. He built a formidable resistance army and established a structured government in the western and central parts of Algeria. So is there anything that you'd like to add or elaborate on, Brother Ethan?
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick point, and thank you for mentioning Emir Kadir, because what the FLN drew upon in their policy was the tradition, cultural, historic values, which they knew were innate, inherent, inbred, imbued in their people. And to have the confidence, including the spiritual belief, faith, Iman, Islam, etc. So those were the central pillars which were vital in order to drain the poison from the honey, to separate the colonized, the Trojan horses within, but with confidence, knowing, and remember, you cannot afford to be wrong. This is annihilation or victory. There is no other option. So to have the confidence to make such a strategy, remove the poison from the honey, but know that my people have these inherent, innate values founded and embodied in the very um, founder of the Algerian nation. It's an important thing to recognize. This is why we are examining these qualities. And without these leadership qualities, that's the point of this. Without these leadership qualities, and even the individual has to have the ability to at least recognize them in this day and age, rather than be entertained by whatever Bugs Bunny character is put in front of you. So that's why we're doing a closer examination of what are these leadership qualities. Thank you. Please do continue, Mr. Fatma.
Yes, thank you. Which is why I find it very necessary to mention the achievements of Emir Abdel Qadir. Um, so the first thing that he focused on was the unification of Algeria. So he succeeded in uniting various tribes and created a disciplined and organized state. So settling up administrative and judicial system that brought a sense of national unity and lawfulness among Algerians. So he introduced policies to strengthen Algeria's economy, but also army and social structure, while also promoting education and social justice. So, for the military campaigns that he did, so over a period of nearly 15 years, he successfully led these campaigns using the guerrilla warfare tactics that actually caught the French forces off guard. He fortified several regions of Algeria. So he made it very difficult for the French to establish full control um, yes, completely for control. So they were not able to. So his strategic and profound knowledge of both military and religious philosophy earned him widespread respect and recognition. Yes, please, Brother Eason, can you add?
Yeah, yeah. So just to crystallize, because we don't want you slipping into any hypnotic, um, alpha state of mind, which is what people are used to from listening to the radio, watching screens, be it TV or iPad or mobile. So stay conscious, stay with us, and you may arrive at a point of having some lead. That's why the podcast is called Global Leadership. Okay. So the qualities that we are talking about, it's not Donald Duck, Daffy Duck, or anybody else. They're very clear. Okay. Empowerment, character, accountability, vision, planning, recognition of leadership through merit, and the very presence of those leadership qualities and being able to recognize them. So these are the things that are being highlighted. These are the things that were inherent within these people. And if we draw the contrast very quickly, action and accountability, as well meaning as President Trump is, excuse me, you got it disastrously wrong last time. Character, really? You got it, you've been disastrously exposed. Empowerment, really? John Wayne is going to ride to the rescue. We'll do it for you. You don't have to do anything. Whereas the Algerian example was in reverse. The people were empowered. The people were drawn on that you have this character within you. Hold yourselves accountable. Your spirituality gives you the vision. As Sister Fatima highlighted, the Amazigh always had that inherent value of sovereignty, free people. And then those who prove themselves automatically rise through merit. So these contrasts are interesting to draw because we live in a Bugs Bunny entertainment driven psychosis where there is no accountability, there is instead denial. And as with the highlighted example from the first part, there was no room for failure with the FLN. It was win or be forever defeated. It is a massive chapter of real history, not Bugs Bunny-fied Hollywood where you get whooped in Afghanistan and then you make hero movies anyway. If the future generations, if they look up Afghanistan movies or whatever, if you go on Netflix or whatever else, you'd think the peanut butter land, America, won. They have the nerve to have been more humiliated than probably any nation in history with their defeat. They had to run. They didn't even have time to tie up the shoelaces. Yet they make movies about heroic escape from a mountain, etc. And this is the delusion. This is the denial that can, and most likely, I hope not. But you got to follow the behavioral evidence. You have to be absolutely accurate in your assessment. And if Donald Trump is already hiring deep state actors and not having learnt the lessons, and what are the spiritual, moral characteristics of a Bugs Bunny-fied nation, you gotta get rid of the poison from the honey first and foremost.
Indeed, brother. And yes, as you've mentioned, that thanks to their origins as Amazigh, that hugely impacted them and their identity to always stay free. But it is also worthy to mention that when Islam came, that strengthened their core because it aligned with their moral foundations. So Islam also gave the people of Algeria the faith and the strength they needed to stay resilient, committed to the cause. And I find it really interesting how Amir Abdel Qadir was been able to set up treaties with the French. One of the famous treaty that he's done with the French was the Tafna in 37, which allowed him to autonomy. Uh, it actually gave him autonomy over much of Western Algeria in exchange for peace. However, as we are used to see from colonialism, as we are seeing nowadays with the Israeli forces, the French violated the treaty, so he resumed his resistance despite the ultimate defeat in 47. He still maintained a reputation for nobility, honor, and fair conduct, gaining the respect of his adversaries. And in fact, thanks to his amazing ability to lead, the French could not stand him anymore. So in 47, he was imprisoned in France. But they knew that they could not hold him for too long, right? Because they had nothing against him. So in 52, Napoleon III granted him freedom. So Abdul Qadir settled in Damascus, Syria. But there is an amazing connection between the Algerian people to the land, to their land, is that no matter where they are, they can be even in the moon, they will still be connected to the land and always committed to the cause. So even if that Abdul Qadir was in Syria, he still continued his commitment to Islamic scholarship and diplomacy, and famously intervening to protect thousands of Christians during the 1860 Damascus massacre. an act that won him international acclaim and recognition, including honors from leaders in France, the United States, and other countries.